Welcome, everyone, um, to the first webinar of our latest series for UK PACT. It's an absolute pleasure to have you all here today. We are recording this session as well, and we're going to be talking with Jana Meier. Apologies if I've got that surname pronunciation wrong, Jana, you can correct me later. From Carents, which I'm really delighted to have Carents with us today as well. It's an area of parents and carers identity that is, I think, growing. So we'll hear a lot more about that in as the session develops. Before we get into that part of today, just wanted to flag for everyone on the call that we're part of UK PACT, which is UK Parents and Carers Together. We've been on this journey now for quite a few years. Medea, Sajid and Ellen McManus Fry set this up, and Anna Lopez and Anna is on the call. We've been continuing from about summer of 2024. We've done a bit of work in the last year or so, and we've managed to launch a website. So you can see the link to the website there, www.ukpact.org. And we've been doing these webinars. We did them last year. There is a YouTube channel. If you search for UK PACT, you can find that. And we've got some planned sessions for the coming academic year. Obviously, today's on Carents. We've also got a session coming up in November. I'll trailer that at the end of today on like fatherhood and dad dialogues and so on. We've got further sessions in 2026 on carers and also breastfeeding. But also, as you are part of UK PACT, we'd really welcome any suggestions that you might have for people that I might reach out to, or Anna and I might reach out to. And I want you to bear in mind the question: what can this national network become? What can we become? It's something that we want you to be part of and to contribute to. With that in mind, you may have had the email to request a quick response to a little survey that we've put together just to help us to understand how our website and toolkit are being used and how these webinars are being received. And any comments you want to put in that as well would be really, really helpful to us. It's just helping us to fully understand the different ways that people are using it and engaging with UK PACT. So you can follow the QR code, but I've also sent emails previously. So yeah, really welcome your input on that. Okay, with no further ado, I want to just trail and introduce Jana, who's kindly joining us from Carents today. Carents, just to kind of steal the thunder, it's adult children who are now looking after their own parents, and we know demographically this is something that is going to be a growing area of working life, so something that we're particularly interested in and want to explore. And Carents is an organisation that provides this support. So Jana has 13 years experience in health and social care, specialising in partnership development, strategic partnership and stakeholder engagement. Expertise with working with the public and private health and social care clients, including the NHS. And she's contributed to innovative solutions to improve service delivery and outcomes. So drawing from both personal and professional experiences, Jana understands the unique challenges faced by carents, having seen firsthand the pivotal role her mother played in caring for her father and grandparents. She is deeply connected to the caregiving journey. This personal insight fuels her passion for ensuring carents have access to the resources, partnerships and services they need to thrive. Jana is inspired by the resilience and dedication of carents and is particularly passionate about advocating for their needs. Through her work at Carents, she is committed to ensuring the platform remains a trusted ally for those navigating the complexities of caregiving, offering meaningful solutions to make their journeys more manageable and rewarding. And Jana, I'll happily hand over to you at this point, and you can...
Hello, everyone. Hope you are well. My name is Jana, and I'm here from Carents. So today's session, I hope to introduce you to Carenting Generation, explain a little bit around what we mean by Carenting Generation, and hopefully after today's session, you will be able to spot Karens amongst your friends and family, community, and workplace more easily. And also, hopefully after today's session, you understand better the challenges they're going through and most importantly, how they can access advice and support from carents.co.uk. But before I move on with my presentation, I would like to show you a video. This is a video about Lisa, and she's part of our community. She has kindly agreed to share her story with us and with the wider community. It was originally filmed for BBC Breakfast Live, but both BBC and Lisa agreed that this recording can be shared. And I think instead of me trying to explain to you what we mean by Carents and who Carents are, I think Lisa's story tells us far better than I ever could. So here is Lisa's story.
So I'm cleaning, I'm cooking, I'm shopping, making all medical appointments and transporting them to the medical appointments. With Dad, I'm advocating for him because with his dementia, it gets very hard for him to be able to understand what's being said to him. It's incredibly hard. It takes a toll on you emotionally, physically, mentally. There's my parents have loved and supported me all my life, so I'm just returning it now and just doing what they've done for me all my life.
That was on a cargo boat.
Very shortly after we moved in, I reduced my hours of working, and then my stepdad died. This with my mum in South, and mum lost her vision at the same time within a couple of months. So I then found myself having to give up work completely. It's hard sometimes, you don't have contact with other human beings. You're fighting with medical people to try and get appointments or try and get the right treatment for your parents. You don't get to see your friends anymore. You've got to face the M4 and the M25 first of all, and with the speed restrictions, the roadworks, traffic congestion, etc. It can take me anywhere up to about 9 hours for that journey. Probably about 11, half 11. We're not looking for recognition. We don't want to say, well done, you're doing a great job. We don't even necessarily want money. This is about raising awareness and equalities for carers. If you're a parent, you get maternity leave and paternity leave at work. Parents don't get paid leave to go and look after them from in an emergency. They get no thanks for it. Don't get any credit for what they do. Oh yes, she looks after her mum. Well, it is their mother after all. Yeah, but she's given up her life to look after her mother.
Thank you for watching. This was Lisa's story, and even though every caring journey is different and every caring story is different, I think Lisa's story brings it to life. Their kind of struggles, parents can experience. So we are very grateful that she agreed to share it. So what we mean by Carenting Generation, I guess it comes as no surprise that we have more older people than ever, and it's just and this will just increase in near future. Older people live longer than ever before, but they at the same time have a lot of health issues, so they do live longer, but can experience multiple health issues at the same time, which means that they start relying on their family members more and more. Carents for us are any adult who provide support for their aging parents, relatives, friends, neighbors, anyone who supports an older person, basically. And before I forgot to mention how Carents started, and I guess but it's quite relevant to the next part. So Carents was established by Dr. Jackie Gray. She's GP and public health doctor by background. And over the 30 years, she's seen people coming into her practice with their family members. So she witnessed their kind of family dynamics and what role relatives play in older person's life. But at the start of her career, the Carents tended to be a little bit younger, so around 40s, 50s, supporting their 60, 70-year-old relatives. But towards the end of her career in 3 decades, she started noticing that it's more like 50 to 70-year-old Carents supporting their 80 to 100-year-old parents or loved ones. So it means that both Karen and the person they're supporting are older, which unfortunately quite often means that they both have health issues as well. And there is around 4 million Carents alone in the UK. And those are adults supporting all the loved ones, so not all unpaid carers. It's specifically 4 million Carents, and that's that research being done by King's Fund. I probably don't need to talk too much about this graph because you probably have seen it throughout your careers and through different networks. But yeah, we have an aging population. Our birth rates are not keeping up, which means that there will be more Carents as the time goes on, and they will be supporting even older adults. And I did mention briefly on the first slide that people live longer, so their lifespan has increased, but the health span hasn't necessarily kept up. So people tend to live longer, but in a relatively poor health. And poor health usually means that they need to rely more on their family or friends for support. So over 85% of individuals aged 85 and above in England live with multiple long-term conditions. So it's not necessarily the old age that means that you need more support. It's usually driven by the health conditions. So who are Carents? As I mentioned, there's around 4 million of them in the UK at the moment. They make up 57% of all unpaid carers in the UK, and 10% of all employees are Carents. So if you think about your own workplace or your partner's workplace, 10% of that workplace, 10% of all employees in that workplace will be Carents. And because they tend to be in their 40s, 50s, they can be quite senior, they can be in a managerial role because they might have been with the company for quite a long time, so they hold a lot of knowledge. So it's not so much even about the grade, but it's just the knowledge and industry expertise. There are gender differences between male and female Carents, and that's done by the research. That's been kind of researched quite well, not by us. But yeah, females or daughters tend to do more kind of personal care, get involved more with the personal care, while the sons and men tend to support more with the white collar tasks such as banking, paying the bills, wills, probate, all that. And the average age of a Carent is between 50 and 69 years. And there's different subgroups of Carents. So there are sandwich carers. So a lot of the Carents still have their children at home because as a society, we tend to have kids a little bit later in life. So they're supporting both their children as well as their older parents. Distance Carents, that again, as a society, we're quite dispersed. We don't tend to, not all of us tend to stay and live close to our parents. So you can be in a completely different county, city, which means that Carents then have to navigate 2 different systems, either 2 different NHS trusts or 2 different councils. Carents quite often get involved with care for their in-laws, so that brings up a different dynamic, emotional dynamic to it, because they haven't raised you, they're not your parents, but you're providing quite an intimate care at times. Some parents share their homes with their either in-laws or their love parents, and we also see a rising number of grandchildren providing support for their grandparents. So yeah, they're just different subgroups of parents, but again, every subgroup means that they have that little bit of extra to navigate and think about. Caring journey is different. And I'll introduce a phrase, a frailty here, which isn't that well talked about, and definitely not a word that older people like, but it's actually a clinical term. And parenting pathways can be different, but quite often they start, you become a carer at the kind of earlier stage of frailty, where your loved one probably functions quite well, but just needs that little tiny bit of support here and there. And then as the frailty progresses, and on the other end of the frailty, severe frailty, that's where Carents and the family tends to get involved almost 24/7. But yeah, the pathways can be very different. So the grey line here demonstrates that it's a typical pathway for someone, for example, who's experienced a fall. So they can, of course, they can recover from the fall, but what tends to happen is they don't fully recover back to their original kind of fitness level. So even though they recover and then they plateau for a while, it's not quite at the level they were before. But that can also mean your eyesight getting worse. Again, you can recover by having prescription glasses or changing your prescription, but you don't quite recover to your original level. The blue line is when something major happens, such as heart attack or stroke. It's a very steady, very quick decline. And that's where Carents are thrown into carenting head first, without any warning, quite often. And it's quite a steep kind of downward trend. And then the pink line demonstrates usually diagnoses such as dementia. So, of course, if a person is diagnosed with dementia, they can live very well and fulfilling lives with dementia. But overall, over time, so it's not as steep of a line, but it's still a downward kind of trajectory from them. And we do get asked it a lot. How long will my caring journey last? And it's impossible to predict, of course. But again, trends are showing that people care for their loved ones anywhere between 3 and 10 years. Quite often when the carenting journey comes to an end, for example, for one parent, your carenting journey either begins or intensifies with the second parent, because now living alone, they perhaps start kind of experiencing those cognitive declines and not being able to support themselves as well. So it can be a really long journey, and I understand why employers might struggle with supporting carents, because it's not quite like a maternity leave. It doesn't have a defined kind of time frame, and it can last decades, really. So I can understand how employers can perhaps struggle with that. But the realities of carenting, so as I mentioned before, what carents usually find is they start getting more involved at this kind of initial mild frailty stage. And the help is probably very ad hoc, setting up direct debits, for example, picking up prescriptions, doing one-off bigger shops. And then as the frailty progresses, and their older loved one reaches the moderate frailty stage. That's when parents usually notice that they have to step in more, they have to support more. That's where perhaps they start thinking about care options or adaptations at home, and they get involved almost with all the outside activities, because quite often that's also a point where older adults, they might be physically capable, but they start experiencing, for example, they lose the kind of confidence in themselves. So if they've fallen victim or experienced a scam, they might kind of refuse to pick up any phones or make any appointments online because they've lost that confidence in themselves. But that means the carer has to step in more. And the later stage, so the severe frailty, I don't mean end of life here. So your loved one won't qualify for end of life pathway or support through NHS or council, but the later stages of frailty do mean that the older loved one needs 24/7 support. They're completely dependent on that support, be it the care agency or from the family, and that includes all personal care, all kind of anything they do. Here is Helen's story. She's another member of our community and has very kindly shared her story with us. And that's just, I think her story really brings to life how frailty progresses and how carenting journey progresses, and how long you can be a carent for. So I'll leave it here on the screen for just half a minute or so, because you can probably read it much better than I can. And obviously this is recorded, so hopefully you can just pause the video if needs be. So I'll move on now. So we've also, so we run a lot of focus groups and webinars, and through those webinars and focus groups, we've created a word cloud. So you see all the words that keep coming up during the focus groups and any events we run. Unfortunately, they are, majority of them are on a more negative side, so overwhelmed, exhausted, and stressed. They are the kind of words that keep coming up from the community. I think people find it quite challenging to hold down the job, at the same time provide the full-time care and manage, for example, 2-3 households at the same time. If you can imagine, sometimes life admin is quite bad for one household, where you need to be on top of your bills, sort out repairs, but then you have to manage multiple of them. 6 months ago or so, we carried out a research with our community. So we got over 1,074 responses, and that was based on our community feedback. And we kept hearing that a lot of them struggle at work because they haven't can engage with their employer, or they don't want to engage with their employer on this topic. So we decided to do a survey, and 71% of people who took part, so around 700 of them, said that carenting has impacted their work, meaning they've either reduced their hours or they changed their jobs to take on more flexible or less demanding job, or they left employment altogether. And 37% did say that carenting has impacted on their retirement plans. There was also around 35% of respondents who said they don't know yet how carenting will impact their retirement, but 37% said it has impacted. And it means perhaps them realizing that they need to retire earlier than they planned. Perhaps they're not going to be retiring with the retirement pot they were hoping for. So yeah, they are quite big decisions, and impactful decisions, of course. But now, hopefully, I haven't brought the tone down too much, and we coming on to a little bit more positive part of the presentation. So, what can we at Carents Coded UK support with? So, Carents Coded UK is a dedicated online platform. It's free to use for anyone. So, anyone who thinks, who feels that they're supporting an older adult and think they might benefit from it, it's definitely for them. It's free, and it's all about giving this information and advice to empower carers to provide the best care they can for their loved ones. Because I think unless you work in that industry, what a lot of carers find is they feel really, really unprepared. And why Jackie set up Carents was because when she became her father's full-time carer, she realized that there's so much information she needed, but there wasn't an easy place to find it. It does exist in separate parts of the internet, but what we're trying to do is bring that trusted information under one roof. We've had some fabulous feedback from our community saying that we are invaluable for emergency service, for example. So it seems to be very truly valued by our community. We have our flagship website, we have peer-to-peer support groups, we have our newsletters, webinars, we have produced ebooks and toolkits, so anything to make Karen's life easier. So we keep trying different methods. We have social media channels, and it's grown in 5 years. So we have over 55,000 members now. So this number on the slide is actually a little bit out of date already, which is phenomenal. It's really grown from nothing to 55,000+ members. And obviously we do lose members when the Carenting Journey comes to an end. So, and it becomes not relevant to them anymore. So in our practical guides, so we call they are our parenting guides. So on the right-hand side on a slide, you can see the kind of main headings and topics of what is covered, anything from planning ahead, personal care, mobility, and then when you click into them, you'll have subsections in there as well. We very much hope that Carents Coded UK is a companion that can be with carers throughout their caring journey. So carers don't feel like they need to consume all the information at once. They can kind of come in, dip in and out whenever it becomes topical for them and whenever they need advice on a specific topic. We also have a section, our store cupboard, helpful products. That's where we're trying to really showcase the innovation in this sector. So any product or service that would benefit carent or the older loved one, because unless sometimes you don't know what you're looking for because you don't even know it exists. So yeah, we're really trying to work with partners to make sure we bring the kind of useful innovation or just useful kind of products and services to carents. We have our armchair. So our big second pillar, yes, we do want to empower carents to provide the best support they can for their older loved one. But the second big pillar for us is also making sure that carents look after themselves during this process. As you saw from word cloud, it can be quite stressful. It can be quite stressful at times. And what usually happens is carers put themselves last. So we very much promote kind of self-care, making sure that they look after their physical, emotional health. They know where to get that support. So yeah, that's really big for us. And you can see a quote here from Burnout Expert who's worked with us. The basic message here is that giving of yourself must be balanced with giving to yourself. Making yourself strong, knowledgeable, and in good spirits makes you a better provider for those in need. And we very much believe in that. As I mentioned, we have our peer-to-peer support group, so that has over 7,000 members now, and it's a very active community. And I guess it's important for people to meet other people in the same situation, because it can be a topic that's not very often discussed amongst your friend groups. So that's a chance for people to meet others in a similar situation. So we have one on Facebook, and we also have a kind of private forum for anyone who doesn't want to be on social media, or just prefers to keep things more private. Our community fed back to us a while ago that when their caring journey comes to an end, it's perhaps not relevant for them to stay in a lounge, but they still wanted a place to belong to, and they wanted to have the community that has the same experience as them, so whose parents or loved ones have unfortunately passed away. So that's why when we created Carents Garden, it's much smaller and quieter than Carents Lounge, but I think it's the quiet support that people find from each other, and they can reach out to each other. So that's fantastic. And then, we obviously want to reach as many Carents as possible to provide that support, to be there as their companion and make sure they don't feel alone on this journey. So that's where you can find us on all the social media. And if you can, please do spread the word. And that's it from me today. Thank you very much. You can always get in touch with us at hello@carents.co.uk. Any questions, or with me personally, my email is just jana@carents.co.uk. But if you reach out at hello, it will make its way to me as well. And lastly, we're holding our first ever Carents Day on 9th of October, and we have a lot of amazing sessions planned for the day. It's a day to celebrate Carents and to kind of promote again the self-care and making sure they take a little bit time out of their busy days for themselves. Yes, thank you very much, and have a lovely rest of your day.